Mitchell, can you tell us a little bit about spirit guides?
Yeah, so there are many ways that our spirit guides can come in to assist us and help us with our lives. And we can receive what we call clairvoyant impressions, where we may be shown a symbol, we'll be shown a vision, we may receive a colour. Then we have clairsentience, which is the ability to feel. So our guides often can give us different feelings to take a particular course of action, perhaps to avoid a situation or perhaps to jump into a wonderful opportunity. But then we have what we call clairaudience, which is where our guides can come in through sound and through thought patterns. And you know, there's a terrific movie, it's an old movie, it's called Always, and it stars Richard Dreyfuss and Audrey Hepburn. In fact, I think it was one of the last movies that Audrey had done. And basically there's a guy and he's a fighter pilot, that's what he does, and he dies in action. And there's a young guy that's training up to become a fighter pilot. So anyway, this gentleman, he passes away, and there's a scene where he's sitting in like a bush, and Audrey Hepburn sort of is giving him a funny haircut, and she's his guide, and she says to this man, "You're going to become a guide for this young guy, this young cadet that's learning how to be a firefighter pilot." So he goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Well, how will I communicate with him?" And I love this line, and Audrey says something along the lines of, "You know, we just send them thoughts. You know, they often think it's their own thoughts, but it doesn't matter as long as they get the message. We just send them thoughts, and it's all done by thought." And of course, there's later on scenes where you see him thinking, you know, to the guy, you know, "Your nose itches," and the guy scratches his nose. But it's sort of like our guides communicate to us through thoughts and thought patterns. And a lot of people, the way you can determine if it's your own thought or if it's a thought of spirit, is that you need to ask yourself, is this coming to me? As in, is it coming to me from spirit, or is this coming from me? Is it a projection of myself? And as you begin to get to better know yourself, you'll be able to find you become very clear, being able to determine whether you are receiving something or whether you are projecting something. And that's why I say, when you want to develop mediumship and when you want to develop your sense of psychic awareness, I feel that the most integral step is getting to know yourself, and to know yourself well, because it's through knowing yourself and understanding you and your own sense of self-awareness that you're able to become a much more clearer channel for guidance.
Do you think psychics bypass this sometimes?
Yes. And I believe we all develop differently, and I believe it's amazing. I mean, there are so many natural mediums and natural psychics that I believe are on the planet these days. But I find that some people, it's a sad reality that unfortunately these days you don't necessarily have to be spiritual to be working in the field of being a medium. However, I believe it is integral that you have a solid understanding and a philosophy. See, to me, the work of spirit is, I have a philosophy of spirit. I have a philosophy of how I work with spirit, how I blend with spirit. But I think some people, at times, perhaps, they may bypass that aspect of getting to develop themselves. But they can be wonderful mediums and wonderful psychics, you know. But I feel everybody, and myself included, always needs to make time to sit. But in traditional circles, back in the old, they'd call that sitting in the power. And it's where you sit in the power, it's where you sit in the silence, it's where you create space to invite spirit into your life. You create a space to surrender your thoughts and allow spirit to come in. You sit in silence, you sit in stillness, and you allow yourself to be still in the body, but raise the power within the body. So it's like you're still in the mind, but there is a power in the body. And as you learn to raise the power, you can make very strong links and connections with the spirit world.
You talk about calming the mind and that. How long should someone maybe sit and do this?
I always say it's a case by case, as long as you feel guided or what you feel you need to do. I mean, I always like to have a space for myself each day. If it's not 30 minutes, it's at least 20 minutes a day, where I will have absolute silence. And what I mean by silence is I mean there is no television, there is no music, there is no background chatter. I create a space for myself. So if I know that I'm not going to be in a space that will be silent, I will go and find myself a silent space, whether that be the beach, you know, somewhere, a park, somewhere where I know where I can just be with myself and be still and be present in my body and in my mind. And what I find is that as I sit in the stillness, I often will surrender anything that I have going on in my life to spirit. So I will say, you know, if help me, please move me with this. Spirit, put me on the right path. Spirit, please show me the truth of this situation. In fact, one of my favorite all-time requests or prayers to spirit is, Spirit, I always say, please show me the truth of this situation. And if this is something I need to go through, then please let me go through it with dignity and grace. And what I mean by that is I always say, Spirit, please guide me through this situation. Please help me guide me into the right path. But if this is something that I need to go through, then please give me the dignity and grace to get through it. And what I mean by that is sometimes I receive the guidance, sometimes I'll receive information, I'll receive, I need to do this, or this is the best thing for me to do. And other times I go through it with grace. So there are some lessons in life we need to go through for our soul to be able to evolve and grow spiritually.
But that's very hard sometimes to go through that, isn't it?
Sure it is. Sure it is. But hey, you know what? I don't want to come back and do it a second time. But, but it's true. I mean, I always say no matter what situation is before me, and I've had some difficult situations, I think people get a misunderstanding. They will often see me in the media, and they'll see me on TV, and they'll see that I do some, different events and things, and they often, I think, maybe get an assumption that my life is just always in perfect balance and harmony. Nobody's life ever is. You wouldn't be human. Do you see what I mean? You wouldn't be having a human experience. So for me, I like to create space for myself to be still. And there have been many times in my life, there have been many times in my life where I have literally just surrendered a problem or a concern to Spirit and said, Spirit, please guide me with this. Please help me. But if I'm meant to go through this, then please give me the grace to get through it. Sometimes I get the guidance, other times I get the grace, but I'm always thankful.